Welcome back to Pine Hollow Quilts, everyone. Today we are going to be making this quilt right here. I don't know the name of it. It's not my pattern. It is one I saw that I loved, and I thought, okay, I can adapt this for a repurposed kit that I have, or it works great with jelly rolls. And as I'm going to demonstrate cutting today, it's going to work really well with a layer cake. First, what you have are rectangles. They're all 2.5 inch. So part of them are strips and part of them are squares. I'm going to show you two ways to do it today. I'm going to show you the squares in the center to make it scrappy, or if you want to use up some of the supplies that you have of your 2.5 inch squares and just use a common solid out here. Or I'm going to show you how to do the center as a coordinating strip to the outside. The only advantage to that is less cutting and less sewing time. I can make 4 blocks with a single strip in the center in about 15 minutes. But we're going to show you both ways. This way with the scrappy center, and then the one with the solid color center. So let's get right to it. Okay, so let's get started. Today I'm using a layer cake. My layer cake is Benartex. Not sure if you can see that. I'm going to be using 2 layer cakes to get this done because I am making a queen size. 1 layer cake with 42 squares in it will yield 42 blocks for the quilt. You can go 7 across and 6 down. So let's start cutting. The first step we are going to do is we are going to cut a 6.5 inch line on our fabric. Okay, so I'm going to line my ruler up, and if you've noticed that the pre-cuts coming from the manufacturer have the pinked edges, the way to measure on something that has pinked edges is from the valleys of the pinking, not the tops of the pinking. So I'm going to line my 6.5 inch line up over here on the ruler on the valleys of the pinking, and I'm going to cut. And you're going to get this section and this section. This is 6.5 inches. Okay. The next step that we're going to do is we're going to take this section here that we just cut, and we are going to cut 4 2.5 by 6.5 inch rectangles. So if you need to turn it, you can turn it. This is going to be a little tricky because I have some magic going on here. Okay, so we're going to lay this on. The easiest way I've found is to cut 1 2.5 inch strip and then use that straight edge that I have in here so I don't have to deal with pinking, and come in and cut from there. So the next step is the 4 2.5 inch rectangles. These are going to be your sides, your top, and your bottom. Now, here comes the magic for step number 3. Okay, we can do one of 2 things. We can either cut 4 2.5 by 2.5 inch squares out of this section over here for our scrappy center, or we can cut 1 2.5 by 6.5 inch rectangle to give us a total of 5, and 1 2.5 by 2.5 inch square, and we can use that square to maybe do a pieced border. And what you'll have left is you'll have a strip you'll have a strip about this much, probably about an inch, and that's just scrap. So let me show you how these are going to go together. Yes, there's a brown one underneath. Let me get these separated. So if you're doing the scrappy, see, this one was cut, the brown was cut, so I have the 4 rectangles and then I have the 4 squares. This is one that I would be doing a scrappy. Now, if you're going to do it scrappy, they all have to be scrappy because you have to cut all the squares. You will have one extra, so you'll be able to use it in a pieced border if you like. If you're not going to do it scrappy, if you're going to do a center piece, let me show you what that looks like. If you're going to do a center solid like I have on this one, then you're going to want to do them all center solids. So make that decision before you get started. So let's show you what one would look like with this. Now remember, I'm not sewing it, so my seam allowances aren't going to be exact here. I'm just eyeballing it. Let's see. I now have one of these. And I'm only using 2 colors here. You would, of course, use either 2 colors, 3 colors, or whatever you choose. You know, this is your quilt. I always ask you to make it your way. Don't follow my exact choices in coloring. My choices are going to be different than yours. There's that one. So make sure when you're putting this together, if you're doing scrappy, you sew your center 3 squares together, and then you attach your sides. Once your sides are attached, then you attach the top and bottom. The top and bottom holds it together. And what you're going to have is 6.5 inches wide by, I think, 10.5 inches long, which is why this one looks like it's going to be put together weird because you go wider than you do long on your blocks. But if you put it together 7 by 6, it's going to be 42 by 60. So the measurements come out. It's just going to be a different shape than what we're used to. So there is one that is kind of a scrappy center. And you don't have to do 3 different ones. As you can tell, I did 2 different ones in here. Or I could go about and do something like this and just do my center as being the different color. And you can get a different look by doing it this way. This is more like a donut hole. Also very cute. So there's a second way to go ahead and put this together. And now I will show you with the solid center. Here we go. And this reminds me of a buttonhole. So this is your buttonhole center. And that is how I'm going to do the remaining layer cake that I have. I've actually already done 4 of these. Like I said, to do them with the buttonhole center, with the solid center, I can snap out 4 of these in about 15 minutes. Where's my other one? There we go. So there's 4. Pull that one up a little bit for you. There's 4 that I've done. Once you get your blocks all together, put them any way you want, and you can just sew them together. And you can make it as big as you want. Like I said, I'm using a full 2 layer cakes. That's going to give me 84 blocks. I'm only going to use 80 of those blocks because I'm going to do 10 across which will be, let's see, 10 times 6.5 is 62.5, and then 8 down, 8 times 10 is 80. That's not quite queen size. I'm going to put some borders on it. I'm going to use my leftover squares, and I'm going to add squares to my border, and then I'm going to put a couple of other borders on it. The one that you saw behind me, and I will go back up to it in just a second, has a 2.5 inch border around it, and it is going to have a pieced border around that, and then probably one more 2.5 inch square border around that. And then I will call it done. So I will show you one more view of the one behind me, and we'll probably be done with that. This is one last look at the one that was behind me in case you wanted another look. It does have 7 across, 6 down. I've got a 2.5 inch border here. I'm going to put another, and this could be where your pieced border comes in, or this could be a pieced border, whichever you would like to do. I am going to put probably a pieced border on, and then yet another 2.5 inch border, just because I have the extra fabric to do it. So we have that colorway as the scrappy, and then we have this one, which is the solid, the buttonhole is what I'm calling this one. I hope you have enjoyed today's video. Notice that we have new camera equipment, new sound equipment, so I hope that this is coming through so much better than it has in the past.